Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and today we will be ranking the horror and thriller films of 2016. So Halloween is less than 1 week away, so what better time to rank the horrors and thrillers that have scared audiences this year. Overall, it's been a pretty awesome year for scary movie fans, so let's see which one comes out on top on my list. Couple of parameters: all of these films had to have had a theatrical release, and obviously I had to have seen them. So that leaves us with 16 total scary movies that made the list. Oh, Kevin Bacon, what has your career come to? Yes, ranking dead last is The Darkness for being completely unscary, completely uninteresting, and completely forgettable. It was just a bad movie. Barely beating out The Darkness was The Forest, and at least this one had a good premise, a nice, awesome setting, and aspects to the movie that could have been awesome. However, execution across the board was horrible, the acting was bad, and the movie just kind of sucked. So I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack or a lot of hate for putting the Neon Demon this far down on my list, but I just didn't like it. This was pseudo-intellectualism at its worst, where Nicholas Winding Refn just disgusted and shocked the audience, not without really even saying anything, while clearly thinking he was saying a whole lot. The Neon Demon doesn't rank last, even though I didn't like it at all, because at least it was shot beautifully and it had some sort of artistic integrity. So it wasn't the worst thriller of the year, but it's vastly overrated and ugh. Morgan was kind of a sci-fi-y artificial intelligence thriller that unfortunately was plagued with a lot of the same problems I thought Neon Demon ended up plagued with. I enjoyed what the movie was going for, and I think the acting performances were really solid in the film, actually. And I think that there was some really good heart in there. It really kind of captivated you with Morgan. Unfortunately, there's a lot of script issues here. There are some pretty big plot holes, and some things that just don't add up or make sense, some unneeded scenes, and all of this kind of bogs the movie down. Plus, it's coming out in a time when we've had so many good artificial intelligence movies, and it felt so similar to Ex Machina from last year, and it was far inferior to that movie. So from this point on, I actually enjoyed all of the movies. In one aspect or another, I thought they had some really good qualities. So let's just jump right into those films. And the first of those is Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I actually thought this movie was way more fun than I anticipated it to be. It's ranked so low because I kind of categorize it more as an action movie than a horror or a thriller, but it is about zombies. And I thought the acting was good, I thought the action scenes were shot well, of course it was cheesy, and the script needed quite a bit of work. And overall, that's kind of why it's ranked so low, but it was a fun time. Honestly, I went in expecting to hate Blair Witch because I really did not like the Blair Witch Project. But this was actually a very solid, shaky cam, first-person footage film. I enjoyed myself. The third act got a little bit wonky, got a little bit too crazy. But overall, I thought it built atmosphere very well. The acting was really strong. And if it had just decided if it wanted to be an alien movie, or if it wanted to be a found footage, or if it wanted to be an actual witchcraft movie, then maybe it could have made its way a little bit higher. But that kind of incohesive script and disjointed premise of the film keep it from climbing higher on the list. If you watched my overrated, underrated based on Rotten Tomatoes video, then you know I picked The Boy as one of my most underrated movies of the year. So why does it come this low? Well, I thought it was a really good time. I loved the twist. I loved that whole third act. I thought it was just a blast. It never took itself too seriously. It played in to the campy craziness of it all, and I thought it was a blast. However, I recognize that quality-wise, it's just not as good of a film as the others. It's not as well crafted, not as well made, not as well acted, but it's definitely a guilty pleasure for me for 2016. I'm probably going to get a lot of side-eye looks for putting The Shallows all the way down on my list because I know a lot of you loved it. And I had a good time. I thought it was a thrilling movie. Blake Lively gave a really strong performance. And it kept me invested, it kept me interested from start to finish. What keeps The Shallows from really climbing up is the fact that I think it unnecessarily demonized sharks in the worst possible way. The shark behavior here was almost completely unrealistic, and then that third act literally jumps the shark. So that all kept it from really climbing higher. So while it was an enjoyable film, I think it was a bit irresponsible of them to really portray sharks as these vengeful demon animals. So I just saw Ouija, Origin of Evil, and I also expected not to like this movie at all because the first one was such trash. However, I saw the positive reviews and I thought, hey, I'll give it a chance. It's worth a before noon matinee AMC price. And I'm really glad I did because this was a strong movie. It built atmosphere so well. The acting was really top notch for a horror movie. And save for a couple really wonky CGI moments in the middle and some bad wire work, it was solid across the board. I had a really good time with Ouija. I thought it was a nice, solid go-to movie for the Halloween season. So I'm a big fan of the Purge series, and Purge Election Year makes its way all the way up because it has more to say than most of the movies that made this list. Overall, I think the Purge really walks a fine line between horror and action. There's so much action and so much actual fighting going on that a lot of times it doesn't actually feel like a scary movie. But this one brought it back a little bit. I thought it did an amazing job with the world building. There were a lot of cool, creepy masks that built in that horror atmosphere. But what really sells The Purge as a premise and as a movie is just how poignant it is to the election we see right now. I think if it had been a little bit more scary and some of the acting performances from our secondary characters had been elevated a little bit, this movie would have made it into the top 5. But as it is, it's a solid movie. I had a great time with it. I think it's the second best of the 3 Purge movies. So Lights Out looks great from the trailers, but as we know, with horror films, trailers can be very, very misleading. But this one turned out to be really solid. These characters were smart, the premise was super creepy, and overall Lights Out just was a scary, good time. It brought the scares, it brought the suspense, it had great atmosphere, and I think Lights Out just across the board delivered on being a strong horror movie. So kicking off our top 5 best scary movies of the year, we have Green Room. I loved this movie. Again, kind of like with The Purge, it just felt so prominent to what is happening in our country right now. You had these crazy backwoods style, monster people coming out and just performing abominable acts, just being terrible people. And unfortunately, it feels like, hey, if I wander too far off of the path, these are the folks that are gonna come and kill me in real life. But Anton Yelchin was wonderful in this movie. I actually thought all the actors were really great. Patrick Stewart gives a wonderful, haunting, uncharacteristic performance here. And it's just really chilling. And this is straight up like a horror thriller combination to the max. This is what the genre really is all about, and it's a nice throwback to kind of a thrasher film, but a little bit more artistic, a little bit cooler. It all just had this real edge to it. But while the look of the movie had a lot of edge and it kind of felt edgy and cool, really it is just kind of a standard thriller. They didn't throw anything unexpected in there. It was just a solid, well-crafted, thrilling horror flick. Speaking of amazing atmosphere, Don't Breathe did it really, really well. Throughout the entire movie, there's just so much tension. And while I had some problems with some of the inconsistencies with some of the characters, it's undeniably just a really great film from start to finish. Not only is it action-packed, fast-paced, and full of energy, it is a great blend to me between shock horror, straight, just scary horror, psychotic thriller, and horror comedy. There were moments in here where I laughed because it knows it's ridiculous. Again, it's so self-aware. It knows when it's just getting completely out there. It embraces that, and it gives off a very Evil Dead kind of vibe. I really loved Don't Breathe. I think it built in so many great aspects of the horror genre from over the years, and that's why it ranked in at number 4. So we're up to the top 3. These are like the cream of the crop, the best of the best 3 really, really good movies. And kicking off the top 3 is The Witch. Now this is a very slow burn. It's not a horror movie for the current horror audience, I don't think. But wow, is it well executed. I think that this script was just fantastic. The cinematography and costume design were amazing. The acting was just top-notch, stellar. And again, it just slowly but surely built into this very creepy, very old, very haunting atmosphere. It doesn't rely on jump scares. It doesn't rely on any of these new styled gimmicks. It just is a chilling movie from the moment you see some very haunting imagery right at the start when a baby is stolen, all the way through to the end. It keeps you guessing. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. I just think The Witch was a small movie that came out big when it came to the horror genre this year. I had a really tough time with these top 2. They're by far my top favorite horror thrillers of the year. And I went back and forth on which one I would have put number 1 multiple times. Ultimately, The Conjuring 2 came in at number 2. The first Conjuring is amazing. Completely terrifying movie, just well made from start to finish. And The Conjuring 2 stays right at that level. It is extremely well made. The cinematography is gorgeous. Vera Farmiga is amazing. Patrick Wilson is super strong. All of the children actors, everybody does their part in the acting department. The directing is beautiful. James Wan is so good at just pulling scenes along, keeping your breath bated as you wait for the payoff. Sometimes the payoff doesn't come when you want it or how you expect it, but it always delivers. And I'm gonna say that nun scene alone gets The Conjuring 2 into the top 5 because I think that is the single best scene in a scary movie this year. It was completely horrifying, the scariest moment, period. So what movie was able to beat out all of these amazing movies in what was a great year for the horror thriller genres? That would be another sequel in 10 Cloverfield Lane. This was a true thriller from the get-go. It kept me guessing. It kept me off my guard the entire time. I was constantly just so uneasy because they did such a fantastic job of building this completely unsettling, creepy, disturbing feeling. And it just is unrelenting. We only have 3 primary actors in this film, and they are all fantastic. John Goodman delivers probably the best performance from anyone in a horror or thriller this year. He was just, devastatingly creepy. And even when we start getting a little bit more outlandish near the end of the movie, they maintain that complete tension, that complete thrill. 10 Cloverfield Lane just kind of took me by surprise. I wasn't really expecting it to be this great. And it just turned out to be the best thriller and the best horror film of 2016 up until Halloween. So, a lot of these are out on DVD, on Blu-ray, so go check them out. Rent them this week if you haven't seen them yet. Ouija is still in theaters, and it is definitely worth checking out as well. So, if you're looking for a horror movie to watch over Halloween weekend, there are plenty of options, whether you want to stay home or head out to the theaters. So join in on the discussion. What did you think of my list? Do you agree with my choices? Disagree with my rankings? Let me know how you rank the top horror and thriller movies of 2016 down below in the comment section, or hit me up on Twitter with those lists. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!